Welcome to Beyond the Box. Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box.
Break it down.
Our guests are insiders, now on the outside and the right side, dropping truth and nuclear intel bombs and breaking it down just for you. And now it's time to meet your hosts and co-hosts. Your hosts of Beyond the Box are Brenda Lankart and Suzanne Hott. Brenda Lankart is host of Beyond the Box and retired law enforcement. Joined by Suzanne Hott, host of Beyond the Box, Joel's Indoor Arena and Event Center, and White Horse Productions. They are joined by Tom Althouse, Brian Sang, and Penny L.A. Shepard. Brian Sang, co-host Beyond the Box, is Full Disclosure Now Movement, fulldisclosuremovement.org. Tom Althouse, co-host Beyond the Box, is the real author of The Matrix, The Immortals, and The Matrix Redeemed. And Penny L.A. Shepard, executive producer and co-host of David Zublick's Awake Nation, The Dark Outpost, Patriot's Perspective, and Beyond the Box. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Break it down.
Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box. Beyond the Box begins now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Box. Today is May. What do they say? May the 4th be with you, 2024. I had to say that. I've seen it all over Facebook, so, you know. So, yeah. So we're going to talk about this. No, people, we are not having a pirate night.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm going to shout out to my friend Kenny, who decided to call me this morning while I was dead asleep. And when I grabbed my phone, it was hooked to the charger. So I pulled it over. And when I did, it fell out of my hand, and the corner of my heavy phone, case and all, smacked me in my eyeball. So all I could see right now, all I can see is nothing but a big blotch of blood in my eye. So we have to keep it covered so I don't strain my eye trying to look through the cloud of redness. So, there we go. So, how was your day, Susie?
Well, I didn't drop the phone in my eye. Let's see.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, we could have been twins. You know, I could have like hit the other eye or something. You know,
Right?
I don't know. So, but no, it's a good day today. It was sunny and warm out, and I went out and played with the horses and brushed everybody. And I got a head count today. I got some more horses that are going to a trainer that I made a deal with, and I'm getting one trained. And I finally, of all the years I've ever tried to get down to a certain number of horses, I've never been able to get there. And today I reached that number. I have 22 horses.
All
Hallelujah.
right.
So
I
was up to 50 at one point, you know. So
Have you done a head count on your cattle?
yes, 26.
Well, okay. We're
And
staying in the
16 dogs and puppies. Okay. And the one cat. Okay.
Are we still going to Walmart with a shopping cart? Free puppies?
Oh Lord.
Let's do it with me in the wheelchair and the eye patch. I bet you people will feel bad, and they'll just be like, "Oh my God, let's take this poor puppy from this half-blind, crippled lady." So we'll just do it. Anyways,
Well, Brenda, I
Yeah.
think we're gonna have a great show tonight. You know, I think we're gonna have like some serious talk, and I think we're gonna have some laughter. I think we're gonna be joking around a little bit. You know.
Yeah, we've got Tommy Edwards with us tonight. We love Tommy. Tommy's just the schnoodle. Well, if you would
He is.
like
He's
to, uh-huh.
he's a good cup of tea.
Oh yes, yes, sweetener in it already. So, if you would like to, Miss Susie, start us off with our safe place.
Okay. I just want to say, Father, I love you, and I know many of us here on this show do too. And if they don't, I hope they learned what your love is all about. And I just thank you for your son, Jesus, and everything that he does, everything he represents, everything he stands for. And I just hope that they're watching tonight and they're part and they participate in what we're doing tonight in Jesus, Yeshua's mighty name. Or Issa or Abermentho or whatever name that you
Yeshua,
know him as.
Yeshua, Yeshua, Jesus,
Yes.
Yeshua. All right, so let me go ahead and bring in our co-hostess that does the mostest, Penny L.A. Shepherd. Hi.
Hola, Chiquita Bananas. ¿Cómo
Arr.
está?
Banana. Chiquita. That's not a good a name.
It is. So just
I
to
know
be clear,
that's owned by a 3-letter agency.
who was it? The one who called you? Because it wasn't me, was it?
No, it
Huh?
was my friend Kenny. Kenny did this
Oh,
to
I
me, by
thought you
the
said
way, everybody.
Kenny. I was
Kenny.
like, no.
So let's all
was
just
looking.
say thanks, Kenny.
Yeah, thanks, Kenny. Actually, I had
Yeah.
a boyfriend
Thanks,
named
Kenny.
It was the Kenny and Penny show.
The Kenny and
Kenny.
Penny show.
Yes, the Kenny and Penny show. So maybe it was my ex-boyfriend Kenny Morton who called you on the phone and put your eye out. And but
Dang.
I just want to ask everybody every once in a while in the audience, please, be respectful and say arg.
Say what?
Arg. Say arg.
Arr.
Time. And we have an illustrious guest.
We have a
Who
surprise
is-
guest.
Yes,
Yes.
a surprise guest. He is not the great Malenko from wrestling. He is not a furry.
Y'all will see what we mean when you see what we
lemur.
mean.
He is. I said he is from the planet Catatonia or Catastrophia.
I say Lemuria. Meow.
Right.
I say he's cute enough to rub behind the ear every now and then, so it's all right.
Catastrophic.
Yeah. All right, so let me go ahead and bring in our other co-host, our Mr. Handsome and Intelligent, Tom Althouse. Hi.
Hey, Tom.
We're not
I
speaking
know,
of
I know,
Tom,
I know.
speaking of
Look,
cat
look, I
house.
can see in his face. Go ahead, laugh, Tom. It's all
Ja,
right.
guten,
Ja,
guten
okay.
Abend. Ich bin honored zu bisschen hier und in guten
Yeah.
ja.
Oh, all I can say to that is, Andy Twa Katusasi said we've lived these.
Und Arg, ja.
Oh my
You
god.
know what would have made this so much better?
Ja, ich bin
If
gut.
Tom would have come out with his rabbit hat on, because we're gonna bring Tommy in, and it's
Yeah,
gonna be
you'll see.
I did something
Yeah.
better. You ready?
Where is the rabbit? Yeah.
For you girls, I did Chippendales.
oh my god.
Oh my god.
He's got the tie, but he forgot the shirt.
Die Deutschen,
Okay.
German Chippendales.
when,
In
when
Munich.
Tommy came on, he was
Tom,
putting
you
his
are a
shirt on.
riot.
Well, that's a little more relaxed. You don't have the
It's like
the collar and
Very, very, how do you say?
I had to laugh because when Tommy came backstage, he was putting his in the middle, was putting his shirt on. I was like, "Whoa, you're supposed to come with clothes on."
Right. Yes. I call that a dress rehearsal, because I did have someone show up in our green room that was wrapped in was in the bed,
in bed.
wrapped with just the sheet, and I said,
You need
I will
some
not say her last name, but I
clothes.
said, Gina, are you wearing any clothes? And she says, not really. And I said, get
Not
up
really.
and go and put a jacket on right now. I said, and
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
her, I tell everyone, this is a dress.
Don't
rehearsal.
forget the
You must
clothes.
come dressed to the show. I'm sorry.
I was
Not
in
the kind of
Secretary to get here, right? Spiel. And
Well-
today I was talking to Penny on the phone on the Telefier, and I said something like, the other side's going to be having a pretty penny. And I did not think what I was saying. So, yeah. And then she goes, pretty penny. I'm like, oh,
I said, pretty penny? What?
yeah, it's going to be a pretty penny for them. Yeah.
As opposed to an ugly penny? I don't know.
Hey, I have a money penny in my lineage. Same thing.
She
There you
does.
go.
You also have a bond.
I have an
Bond.
Elizabeth Bond who was born in London, England. Yes.
I know that guy.
Elizabeth? Yeah, they do change over, don't they, nowadays? Aren't they called faggots?
What?
Wait!
that's
You
a
caught me off
cigarette.
guard. Hang on,
Hey,
wait!
come on,
You
that's a cigarette.
caught me off guard. Wait.
Was that is that your
And that deserves an arg. One
Arg.
good arg deserves
Arg.
another one.
That was interesting.
All right, everybody. So
This is going to be very.
I refuse
Penny.
to call them gay. I had a neighbor named Gay, and I will not insult her.
Good.
oh Lord, have mercy. Penny, Tommy.
Yes.
Shall we bring on Tommy?
Yes, we shall.
We shall. We shall. Or I'm sorry, not
Is
Tommy.
Tommy still
That's not
here?
His, name. His name's Mr. Mysterious.
Tommy, can you hear me?
There it is.
No,
Wow.
Wrestler.
this episode is rated R. R.
Arr. Arr.
Arr.
He's dressed sympathetically for our
Arr.
Enda Lanker who is disabled at the moment and cannot
Patch
see.
Adams over here.
In
Oh.
more ways than one.
Hey, Tommy Evans couldn't make it. Franco Pella came in his place. But I'm just moving the table closer to me so it's not so far away from him. I can alone.
So you don't fall.
Speechless.
Oh my Lord.
It's okay. I'll
Okay.
give you guys a good one. So with one eye, your depth perception's really bad, right? I'm in an electric chair. Do you know I have banged into everything and done everything but run over my animals? They're running scared in the house right now.
Oh my
Like,
God.
here she comes!
She's got one eye.
Now Julie has one eye.
That
That's
one
bad.
second thing.
I'm
legally
sorry, but
blind.
I've never heard of anybody like having the phone fall in their eye. I'm sorry.
That's what that was?
I
Yes,
usually
I've
drop it.
never-
I've dropped it on my face before and hit my nose. But this time, somehow it turned and the whole thing, the side of the phone, because I have a big, thick case on my phone also, and it's
Yeah.
hard. And
Yeah.
that whole thing, just the corner of it just slammed right into my eyeball. I was like,
Ah. Yeah.
You know, I told you, Brenda, that if it wasn't for bad luck, you wouldn't have any luck.
no,
Right. You wouldn't
I'm,
have no luck at all.
I'm
You need
telling
some
you.
safety
I-
glasses.
Yeah. Safety glasses. You're right. I'm going to start sleeping with safety glasses on.
You'd say
When I handed these out on the job site, the guys were like,
There
"What
we
the fuck
go,
are these?"
Tom. Now you're joining the show.
I told her her
Now
friend
I'm a
used to write-
Mr. Smith, Agent Smith stripper. Yeah.
Yeah.
I told her if it's so bright she should have worn shades.
Yeah. It feels good. Okay.
Oh,
Well,
These are-
either there's thunder outside or the military's dropping bombs on my neighborhood. So
Or I'm
yeah, because you are close to the army base.
if
It
I
may be that I'm so impressive, your heart is thundering. Yeah. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Yeah, just go with
Tommy,
it.
my dear, what have you been up to?
Well, Tommy's he's been up to about 230 right now. Trying to get him to lose a couple pounds. He's just it's that winter weight. Just coming out of that thing.
Winter weight.
Yeah,
I've
it's
been
really bad when you start talking about yourself in the third person, Tommy. Just
Right.
FYI.
Well, we are
it's like-
looking at a cat,
That's
Well,
scary.
you guys ever seen Andy Kaufman?
Yes.
I can't
Remember,
believe you said that.
he would do
I
Tony.
know. I
Tony
watched
Clifton.
it. I
Do you
watched
know-
it, Tom.
Roseanne just sent me a clip of her show just last night, and she was talking all about Andy Kaufman.
Yes.
of course.
Yeah,
Of course, because in our lifetime,
Any
there
other
is no
comedian-
coincidences.
I
And
know.
Out of any of the comedians you could have mentioned, because I fell asleep listening to that. I needed a nap at about 7, so caught
Yeah.
about half hour,
She did a
and
good
I was
job.
listening to her talk about Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, you heard it. She did a good job. I love her style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? What?
So,
about?
what is the story on this person?
Yes. Go.
Andy Kaufman. He's a
Yeah.
comedian. He was
What
in
Tommy was going to
Taxi.
say? No, Penny. What Tommy was going to say
I
about
mean,
Andy
Frank
Kaufman?
Capella. See, Frank Capella is my Tony Clifton.
Oh, right. Goodness gracious. Yeah.
I can say anything through Frank Capella,
True.
and people just laugh and shit. You know, I mean, I can say awful things to people, and they just laugh.
Yeah.
They got hilarious.
But yeah, for Susie, Andy Kaufman wrestled women. He pretended to be very chauvinistic and challenged any woman to wrestling, and then would try to beat them. So it was like
Yep.
he pissed women off. So,
Yeah,
Sounds
he
like a
ended up in
faggot
the
to me.
hospital.
In the squared
Oh.
circle.
Sounds like a faggot to me. Brenda.
he was a
You're gonna
comic
get in
genius.
trouble
He
for
was a
hate speech.
comic genius. Yeah, comic genius. He knew how to get people inflamed.
He was. I loved how he wasn't trying to like make
Fearless.
other people laugh. He just wanted to amuse himself.
He was fearless. So you got to hand it to him. He's fun to watch because you knew
Is he a good guy or bad guy, or is he just weird guy?
genius.
He's hilarious.
Genius.
A
Really.
genius guy.
Comic
Okay.
genius.
He was
He's
Lotso.
Yeah,
You
Jim
know,
Carrey played him
Yeah, and
in Man in the Moon.
you can't ignore him. He's one of those people you can't ignore. So he's going to have an effect, and it's genius.
Didn't he pass away? He passed away.
He died of cancer.
Yeah.
Oh,
But he incorporated that. He had the courage to incorporate that into his routine, sort of.
Right.
okay.
Got to hand it to him. The guy went out flying. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
So
All right.
Tony,
Wow.
what would you like to discuss this evening? Do you want to talk about your Brain Slosh documentary?
Well, we can talk about that, or if we talk about we were getting into the Virginia Tech
Yes.
tragedy last week,
Yes.
and then my phone just cut off with like 50% power, and took like 20 minutes to come back on.
Right.
And then you were in the dark.
Yes.
And then I was in the brain.
You're in the brain.
Okay, so I'm going to bring in just the news journal. 1 second. And we can start with that. Okay, so this is a news journal. It begins with 33 dead in Virginia Tech massacre, worst shooting in U.S. history. The university has blood on their hands, and Delawareans shaken but safe, which is weird because we're talking about Virginia Tech. On April 16, 2007, 32 people died after being gunned down on the campus of Virginia Tech by Se-Hu Cho, a student at the college who later died by suicide. The Virginia Tech shooting began around 7:15 a.m. when Cho, a 23-year-old senior and English major at a Blacksburg-based Virginia Polytech Institute and State University, shot a female freshman and a male resident assistant in a campus dormitory before fleeing the building. Police were soon on the scene, unaware of the gunman's identity. They initially pursued the female victim's boyfriend as a suspect in what they believed to be an isolated domestic violence incident. How they could think that that was an isolated domestic violence incident, I have no idea. Were you there at that time, Tommy?
I was at my parents' house, like 7 miles away when it happened. It was after I was living in California at the time. I had just happened to be in Virginia visiting, and helping my dad with spring deliveries for a wholesale company that we had. It was one of those things that it was like getting hit in the chest with a cannonball, you know, just with a shot put or something, just took the breath away, you know, and like just heartache from just the sense of just horrific, like just loss and like just collective pain, you know, that was just emanating from everybody. And shock, you know. We were hearing the sirens and stuff for like 2 hours, and it's right next to. They live kind of in between, like where Virginia Tech is and where the Arsenal is, and they would often have like accidents, industrial accidents at the arsenal. And so that was something every now and then there'd be like, a bunch of sirens and stuff. So that's what we had kind of assumed, and then went inside, and the TV said 33 dead at VT, which kind of, it hit me like in the chest, like took my breath away, because like that had been my football number at Tech, and that had been my dad's number there too.
Oh my God.
And I had felt this sense of loss from the time I was there, when I had a breakdown and left Tech like in the middle of my career. And felt like I had been kind of like wiped from the slate, because it didn't bode well that I left, being a legacy, and like, I led the nation scoring there as a freshman, and all of a sudden, like 14 months later, I'm in the grip of like a nervous breakdown essentially, and there were some other things that contributed to that I wasn't completely privy to at the time, but or didn't understand, and I didn't have a direct memory of. I had some memory of, just most of it was like suppressed. But so I was there in Virginia on it was April 16th, 2007, when the shootings happened, and there were a lot of there's a lot of questions about what happened for the first couple of days, and they didn't announce who the shooter was. They couldn't identify him, because he when he shot himself directly in the back of the head, he disfigured himself with a .22, which seems a little far-fetched. And there were multiple.
What do you think happened, Tommy? Do you think that it wasn't that way? You think that was a story?
Yeah, I think that was the official. The police had apprehended the young man leaving the dorm who had firearms in his truck, and then there was another gentleman that was apprehended that was a Chinese national that was about 6 feet tall, that matched the description of the shooter, according to a bunch of people. And they had him outside of the building on the ground, handcuffed, and he just kind of disappeared from the narrative.
So do you think that it's something like the assassination of JFK, where it's, the CIA, or, planned attack with multiple people?
Yeah, the CIA was on campus that week prior to that, and running drills, and they're known to recruit out of Virginia Tech. Their head of clandestine services.
That does seem a little suspicious, and we know there's no coincidences.
Yeah, and Virginia Tech took down their link to the CIA off their website that same day.
Oh.
And they have a CIA officer as a professor there currently, and
now I'm gonna tell you, coming from somebody who owns weapons, shoots weapons, have been shooting weapons all of my life, and I used to own a .22. And I have never known a .22 to go off in the back of somebody's head and blow their face completely. Never. A .22 is something that's good to use, because the bullet usually stays in and bounces around.
Brenda, when you were in police, you were a policeman. Were you sheriff or police? Police. Okay, so you had training, and you probably spent a lot of hours learning about guns and all that kind of stuff, right? In your training?
I've done that all my life. Even before that, I've always been around them.
Okay.
Yep, learned how to shoot young age. So
does that sound strange to you too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Very strange. Right. And another thing, Tommy, I unless somebody's got extremely long arms, or they have their head turned like this, it's really hard to get yourself right in the center of the head. Even when
the angle of the bullet.
When they do it from here, a lot of times it'll either be angled up or angled down. So I find it really suspicious.
Yes. So did some of the folks that like the doctor at the hospital thought was suspicious. There's a number of different law enforcement that came forward and voiced their opinion on it. I mean, not to mention like the ER doctor that saw the triage a bunch of the folks that came in said it was like a mercenary. There's always 2 to the chest, 1 to the head. And I mean, and this guy apparently he shot 2 people in a dorm, and then went back to his room, changed clothes, took an envelope, walked out off campus to the post office, mailed a videotape to NBC, and then came back on campus, back to his dorm, got the guns and stuff, and then went to the Norris Hall, locked the doors, chained the doors from the inside, and shot. He killed 30 people there, two in the dorm, 30 there, and wounded another 25. And this was with a 9mm and a 22 that he bought like 2 months earlier. No access to guns prior to that. Like 1 or 2 trips to a firing range.
Well,
and
that definitely isn't any kind of a domestic dispute between lovers. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
Sound like he wanted to be famous, you know. I mean, let's mail a letter off to the news.
He did, and that was like pre done. Like that was modeled after another shooter from Vancouver, from a school in Vancouver, like a diatribe the guy went on, filmed himself, and prior to the shootings. But he was definitely the right candidate, to go down as a patsy for the thing.
You think he was MK Ultra to do that?
Something, yeah. I don't think he was the only person there. I mean, there were eyewitnesses that said they saw more than one shooter, and there were at least 6 different descriptions of the shooter, and most of them had him over 6 feet tall, and Cho was like 5'6".
Do you think there were specific targets, or?
I think there may have been. There were a couple of faculty that were shot and killed. The rescue, one of the faculty members that was shot and killed, he had actually survived the Holocaust as a child, and he was a German teacher, I believe. And then there was there was some weird shit that went on. And there was some.
So was he a Nazi? I mean, German Nazi?
I don't think so. Who Cho?
No, the one that you said survived the Holocaust.
No, he was
teaching German.
Yeah, he wasn't a Nazi.
Okay.
He
was a Jew, or
I believe so. Yeah. His and it's like just the sheer number of people that were shot and killed, and the number of times he would have had to reload, and this was all like in a 15-20 minute period of time. It was just ridiculous to think that he could have done that by himself.
And just the number itself, 33.
the number of casualties, but also just the number of munitions that he went through, the number of times he had to reload. Like
right.
It was something that a trained mercenary would have had trouble. If there's just one of them, would have had trouble like getting that many bullets out of the gun and into that.
Yeah, he would have had to have had bags of clips already loaded and just dropped and snapped. And who does that?
Here's an interesting fact. The guns.
Yeah, because we already learned from the JFK shooting, with James Files talking about he was the main shooter, and then Nicolotti was also a shooter, shot, and the 2 bullets shot Kennedy in the head. There were other shooters that were shooting as well. And then you have Oswald, who didn't even shoot, and then he's the patsy, and then he gets shot by that Ruby guy who, you got a lot of people shooting people, and then they try to make out like it was one person, 1 bullet or something.
Ruby's shrink was Jolly West, who was also Tim McVeigh's shrink, and he was and Whitey Bulger, and a whole bunch of others.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that my family worked with the Zenos family because they were psychiatrists, or actually psychologists, and they were in marriage family crisis counseling for over 38 years. in Hollywood. They got their PhD. They were living in Palos Verdes, so they had to be going to UCLA, and UCLA is where Jolie West was the dean of the psychology department from 69 to 89. So I even think I might have met him at one of the dinners at the Zenos family and just been completely unaware because I was MK Ultra.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Jolly West definitely got around. You know, that was
Yes, he did. As a matter of fact, there was, when I was studying about during the Depp trial, the Johnny Depp trial, there were a lot of individuals that were bantering back and forth. One of OJ's drivers, Mario Neutrino, who I know, and other various individuals who worked throughout the entertainment industry as people that would obfuscate and pay off people. And one of the individuals came out and said that, well, his dad really cared about him when they got divorced. And so I researched everything. And he said that his dad went to seek psychiatric help. Well, I'm thinking maybe his dad actually went to get some drugs to deal with what he was dealing with. But so I go to the, there's a specific doctor that they talk about who died. And so I go to the obituary, and there's a girl that says that her mother went to lunch with this doctor and a Dr. West, a psychologist, Dr. West, in Hollywood, Florida. And they had lunch with him every day. And I know who that was. That was Jolie West. And I was born in Hollywood, Florida. And Johnny Depp lived in Miramar, which he went to my junior high school. He went to elementary school with my cousin, Ricky. And I'm 5 years older than him. So when I was looking for pictures of myself on the web, because they took all my pictures because I can see things in the pictures, and I'm looking for pictures of myself, I actually had to go to classmates.com to look at old yearbooks. But when I'm looking, I see Johnny Depp went to my junior high school, and there's a review from my science teacher. And I'm like, what the H? I didn't even know that he lived in Miramar. So Jolie West was all over the world. He was I think he might have maybe at one point worked with Joseph Mengele or Michael Aquino.
Sure.
Definitely.
You know, you know what, Tommy? It's like you can't even imagine how many people have been affected by Aquino. It's astronomical that this man affected so many people. You know, it's mind-boggling.
As did Joseph Mengele.
Yes, both.
Tommy, we're going to be all over the place tonight, so it will take us probably another while to speak to this. But when I mentioned Michael Aquino to you, you gave me a response, and you said, if he wasn't dead, I would go after him myself. Can you tell us what happened to you with Aquino?
When I was being programmed at the underground facility here at the Army ammunition plant as a kid, as part of the Stargate, when they were utilizing the trauma-based mind control method of splitting personality, and as a way to enhance like cognitive acuity and like visual acuity, auditory acuity, and with hopes of also enhancing psionic abilities. He was one of my torturers, and the one thing that stands out that I remember is putting needles in my genitalia and then touching the needles with a stun gun.
Damn.
Just pretty horrific shit.
Tommy,
how would they think that would increase your psychic abilities? Because the torture, it actually causes the disassociation, and then they
Dissociation, but also during developmental stages, it forces almost like an evolutionary like event to where it increases just what you see, how much you take in. It's a survival thing. All of a sudden, you're more aware, and you see more detail around you. You remember lots more detail, and you hear and you remember what you hear, and all your senses. But it's not just the physical senses. It's also enhances like the way the brain develops and opens psionic pathways for for psychic abilities. Like and the whole Stargate thing that was focused on trying to utilize psychic abilities as a way to for national security, as a way for spying. Like the remote viewing program was probably the best, the most well-known aspect of it. But also like offshoots of that became pieces and parts of like the continuation of the Montauk Project, as they realized that what typically would require the Montauk chair with the helmet that came down, which was recovered technology, like non-human origin technology, that allowed for quantum projection. What the person thought would manifest in physical reality, or in enough of a hologram that it became like reality in our dimensional circumference, I guess, or with our sphere of influence that we're a part of, the 3-4D reality. And man, one of the things that they were trying to do was to open wormholes and to create a bunch of like 0 points of reference, to create like a phone book for dimension and time and space, as a way to not only remote view but also to physically go to and from. That way we influence. Another part of that was explored during Project Pegasus, which started like in the late '60s, where you opened a lot of wormholes, and like the concept of the jump room was first introduced, and it's like a time machine essentially. But then they realized that some of us could do that without the use of the helmet, just as natural projectors, which is something that I experienced in my early 20s, just just like spontaneously, just on Memorial Day in 1996, as it opened a wormhole and something came through it.
What came through it?
Well, it initially presented itself as a car, and we didn't see it come through. It was a really weird situation. I don't know have I told this story before?
Yes, but go ahead.
So like we heard drums coming from this tunnel, and the tunnel was built to accommodate a creek to run through, it's a tributary to the New River, and they built a land bridge there in 1933. Once again, 33. And which we all took note of that day when we were there, because it has built in 1933 right at the mouth of the thing. We were hearing drums and sound like hand drums, and I figured it was probably a powwow, because they would have powwows on the other side of the tunnel. There's a city park that was that they built during the 70s, when they took down a bunch of mounds on the river plain there when they built the park, and it was there'd been a civilization there for a long time, and represented kind of the crossroads of North America, because there was stuff from like the Florida Keys and all the way up into Canada. So as we're walking through this tunnel, there's a pipe that runs through it that's above the water line, and we're walking through there, and the drums are getting louder as we're walking through. And at some point I stopped and just sang like a song that I'd written when I was at Boise State. And just because the echo as we were going through, thing I just felt the need to experiment or to explore that sound. And then after I sang a song, kept on walking to go to the powwow, and then we get across through the tunnel, and as you step out of the tunnel, there wasn't anything but like bird chirping, and like, there was an occasional car that went by, and we decided, well, this is weird. Let's go back the other direction, and you step back in the tunnel, you could hear the drums again, but then as we're walking back towards the nature preserve where we had been initially, it got quieter and quieter, and by the time we got back to the point where I had stopped and sang, like the drums had stopped, and we noticed that there was this giant hole in the ground that in the creek that just, there was the width of the tunnel, just a black hole, just like a whirlpool, and the water was coming from the creek. The creek's about this deep, and it's this whirlpool that just dropped into the just blackness, and we're all kind of weirded out by it, but just trying to take it all in, and it, you know, couldn't believe what we're seeing, you know. And so we sat there and kind of checked it out for a little bit, and then got up and walked on out of the tunnel there. And as we came out of the other side, it's like I felt like I had gotten like a download of information when during this little period of time. It was almost like something opened, and there was like the sounds of the past were coming through. We were hearing the past, but then as we came back through, it's almost like there's almost like a dimensional like enmeshment, like of time.
A convergence?
Yeah. And like, so there's like the past and the future and the present were like all like converging at the same spot there, and this thing opened up. And as we got out of the tunnel on the other side, I started hearing this weird chirping noise. It sounded kind of like a cardinal bird, but with like a weird, like echoey, like a mechanical kind of quality. I mean, like it sounded like an effects pedal or something, you know. And I noticed this, and I'm pointing this out to my friends, and it's coming from this tree, but there aren't any birds in the tree. There was nothing there. Like I went up and shook the thing, and nothing flew away, and nothing. It kept chirping. And then so we're pretty much good and freaked out at this point, and we decided we're going to leave. And as we did, we had to walk back down the road and then up an incline of the road, going back up towards out of the park, out of this little valley, you know. And as we got up to the top of the hill, we noticed there's a car parked inside this locked gate. That there wasn't anything there when we first got there, like maybe half hour, 45 minutes earlier. And it just something about the car seemed weird, you know, like the windows were black. And when I say black, I don't mean they were tinted. I mean they were opaque black, like obsidian. And we walked up to the car, and my buddy tried to open the door, and the door handle didn't move at all. It was like it was welded to the thing. And then we're all just kind of weird, you know, we're getting freaked out at this point from everything else that had already happened.
That is weird.
So then my buddy's walking around the other side of the car, and I stepped back about, I don't know, maybe 8-10 feet from the driver's door, and sat down and just started doing this meditative breathing as I was just checking this thing out. And all of a sudden it rippled like water, like the skin of the thing like rippled, and all of a sudden all of the distinguishing features that made it look like it was a Ford Probe, they made it look like a car, just started to disappear. The wheels sucked up in it, and this thing was just hovering off the ground, and it was like liquid mirror, like it was like it looked like mercury, and just like it looked like a mirror that was just this fluid, like, and it was reflecting everything around it, but like, you know, like kind of like in Terminator 2 a little bit, like the T2 was like that when he changed or something happened, he would just turn
metallic and look like liquid.
Yeah, like liquid metal. Yeah. So this thing just showed itself to us, and we probably sat there get 15 minutes and watch this thing, and then eventually the wheels dropped back down out of it, and it took up back all the characteristics of the car that was there. And I got up, walked off. My buddies followed me. Never said anything, walking back to my house, and then they get in their car, they like wave. I'm like walk up to my apartment, and was just kind of, we were in shock, you know. And then like maybe a month later, we were at a party over in Blacksburg, and ran into each other, and we swapped stories, and we had all seen the same thing. And like I first spoke about it on a podcast back in December, I think, and I had both of those guys watch it to see if I had given a accurate representation of what we saw, and they both said yes, that it was
so that would be like a spontaneous thing. Now, Susie, you were in Project Pegasus, and can you tell us about one instance, because it took you many years to figure it out. You actually talked to Andy Basago, but you had told me way before you figured out that you were in that project about something that happened where you were in a room and you watched the seasons change. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I think it was, well, I was living in Jacksonville, Florida, like back in probably around 78. I think I was probably like 18 years old. And I was staying with this family. My mom had kicked me out of the house, you know, because I called my grandpa, and I love my grandpa, and she hated him, so she got mad at me and kicked me out. And I was in high school, and so I stayed with this real nice family, and it was like weird because they were like the Jesus and the Disciple family or something. It was, everybody would just sit around this table and read the Bible, and they were really nice people. And so while I was staying there, I had all these weird things happen to me, like weird spiritual things. Like I'd be having like I had a dream that I went to the store and I found this dog on the way to at the store. So there was a guy living in the house. His name was Thomas. His name was Thomas, but we called him Doubting Thomas because he doubted everything. And so I told him the dream. I said, I dreamed that I went to the store and I found a dog. Well, I left the house. I went out the backyard, went across the street, before I got to the street, I saw this dog. It was a yellow lab, and he was walking, and I called the dog, but he ignored me in the dream. You know, he came to me, he ignored me, and I just kept following this dog. And finally, he walked in these stickers and got these stickers in his paw, and I pulled him out, and he just looked at me. He turned around and he went to the house where I lived and sat at the back door. Well, I ended up like coming back, and I got the flu, and I had to leave for 3 days. And the dog sat there for 3 days and never left. And when I came back, he was my dog. And so, you know, it was like, you know, I told Thomas about the dream, and then it came true, right? So things like that were happening in this house. And one of the things that also happened to me was that same dog. I was sitting under a carport in the front yard one day, and because I was pretty much homeless, I was living with strange people, you know, didn't have any family. And I was talking to God under this carport, and I asked God, is my life ever going to get any better? And I named the dog Sheila, which was like in the Bible, that word finishes at the end of Psalms, and it kind of means musical instrument. So I named my dog a musical instrument of God. And so I asked God that question, and the dog turned and looked at me, and the dog says, yes, it will. And I'm like, what? Say that again? And then the dog just looked at me like a dog, and I thought, what the heck? My dog just spoke to me, and like God just spoke through this dog and told me my life was going to get better. You know, I was like, okay. So, but another thing that happened to me reminds me of something you said, Tommy. I got a ride home from a guy one time at that same house, and he gave me a ride, and we pulled up at the front of the house, and this guy was telling me about heaven and what heaven was like. He said, in heaven, all you have to do is think something and it manifests. Where you think you're here and you can be there. Like in your mind, how you think things, you can make them happen. This is what he said to me. And I was sitting there thinking about what he said, and I wondered, how does this guy know all this stuff? You know, like, how does he know that? So I asked him, I said, how do you know that? And he said, I got to go now. You know, he just like, I got to go now. And I thought, okay, that was kind of weird. So when I opened the car door to get out of the car, all time had stopped. The traffic had stopped. The world had stopped. There was not a single noise out there. Nothing. It was completely silent. We lived off of a busy highway. There was no highway noises, no birds singing, nothing. It was the strangest thing. So I stepped out the car door, and when I shut the door, the minute the door shut, everything started back up, and he drove off. And I thought, okay, that was kind of weird too. So, so while I was in also the other thing that happened to me was I walked into the bedroom one day, and it was a little girl's room named Michelle. And when I stepped into the room, I looked out the window, and it was summertime in Jacksonville, Florida. You know, which it never snows in Florida. But all of a sudden, I looked out, and it was these seasons: winter, summer, spring, and fall, and they were flashing really fast by. And I was watching seasons, and I was watching like leaves fall off of trees, and then snow on the ground, and it was happening like very rapidly, like a lot of years going past real fast. And all of a sudden, I'm in Ohio in my sister's room because it snows in Ohio. So now I'm there in her room, looking around at all the stuff in her room, thinking, how did I get here? You know, and then a few seconds later, everything just goes back, and I'm back there again. So when I came out of the room, I walked back into the living room, and I saw the guy's name was Mike. Mike and Kathy, that was the couple's name that they let me stay there. They were reading the Bible at the table, and I said, did anything weird just happen? He's like, no, nothing. I was like, okay, thank you, you know, because I didn't want him to think I was crazy. But also, when I lived there too, another thing happened. I used to ask Mike, I said, I want to see God. And he goes, well, you just have to pray. You know, I have like the mind of a child. You know, I just want to talk to God. I want to see God. Well, just pray about it. Okay. So I pray all night. Then nothing happens. So I say, Mike, I didn't get to see God. You know, I prayed all night. He goes, just pray again. I was like, okay. So I pray all night. Well, then I came out of my body. I went up to the roof of the house. I remember going through the roof of the house and going up into the clouds. And I got all the way up in these clouds. And I step up onto the cloud, but it looks like Jesus is stepping off the cloud and coming down here. And I step up on this cloud, and there's a big throne sitting there. And it's like this invisible God, because I can't see him, but I see his chair, and there's 3 chairs there, and he motions for me. And I don't know. I must have telepathy because I cannot see him, but yet I know that he's motioning for me to sit down next to him. And so I sit in this chair next to God, and I'm feeling really inferior, like, you know, am I not like worthy to be sitting next to God or something? I was like really felt, you know, like, I don't know, like maybe I was a sinner or something. I don't know what I felt like. I just felt like really uncomfortable. And I get up, and then I walk over to him, and I just give him a big old hug. I hug God, and then, you know, he said I have to go back. So then I went back off the cloud, down through the clouds, and I remember going through the roof of the house and then coming back in my body. So then I told Mike, I got to see God. Well, I didn't really see him, if you know what I mean, but, you know, kind of saw him, you know. You know. So, but Penny was asking about the Pegasus thing. When I was in 6th grade, they came to my school. Pegasus tested me, tested all the kids in the state of Ohio. They said it was for hand and eye coordination. You know, they made you do all this stuff, all these little tests and everything. And then later, this lady comes back and said I tested higher than anybody in the state. And then I remember sitting in my classroom, like waiting for this white winged horse to pick me up. And then I remember thinking I was going to go like from one state to another state or something and just see things, you know. And I remember time was just like stopped on the clock or something. It was really weird. And I just know there was this lady. That's all I remember, some lady. And she would like she would park in the parking lot at the school. And I think I was waiting for her or something. Now, the only thing I can think is, did they wipe my memory? Did they use that little thing on me, or what happened to me that I can't remember any of that? And then I was living with my parents there, and my mom kind of at that time in her life, she was having an issue with her father, which, that was the one she kicked me out on. And she just loaded me and my brother, and we went to the Virgin Islands and lived for a year. So I think she pulled me out of any kind of project that I was going to get sucked into. But I started having weird things happening, things like you said. Now, I wanted to ask you a question also. Do you know who Joseph Mengele is? And did you ever see him? If you don't know who he is, I don't know. I'm just asking if you knew what he looked like or who he was.
Is the Angel of Death?
Yes.
Yeah, he was the Nazi doctor from one of the I think from Auschwitz, maybe. I can't remember if it's Auschwitz or Dachau.
Yeah, the concentration camps. Yes.
And he was fascinated with.
I think it was Dachau. Or that one. Yeah, that's where he was.
Fascinated with twins, and he wound up in Argentina, and as a gynecologist, or he went to this. He went as a traveling doctor to this one village there in Argentina, and what did he do? He was like gave all the pregnant women shots, and he was like their prenatal care and stuff, and it was this. That one village, like everybody has a twin. There was like every.
Yes, he created a twin town.
Yeah, and I know that he was the one. It was his research that that trauma-based mind control is based on, and most of the MK mind control platforms, the stuff that became Monarch programming, was based on his research.
Yeah, he was actually at Auschwitz II and Birkenau concentration, and he was a member of a team of doctors. I'm just reading this right from the wiki. He was born March 16th, 1911, and he was a member of the team of doctors who selected victims to be murdered in the gas chambers, and was one of the doctors that administered the gas. He did horrific experiments on women and men. He would cut off their arms and their legs, and then watch to see how long it took them to die from gangrene. He would take twins and murder one to see if the other one knew that twin was dead. I think that the reason why they focused on the twins, and Brenda is a twin, I think the reason that they focused on the twins was because of their psychic abilities. So they did extraneous
Penny, I believe that, from my research and everything, that Jesus was a twin with Thomas. Thomas didn't miss Judas, was the twin to Jesus. But the Vatican is not going to teach you that story, people. So you're not going to find it there. You're not going to find it in the churches. It's not going to be taught there. Tom could tell you about the churches. They're pretty crooked. They're about the money or stealing things.
So on this note, guys, it is time for us to take a break. Tommy, don't go away.
Right. Our last guest, when we said we're taking a break, like 10 minutes later, we're like, where is she? Like,
but I want to know if Tommy. I want to know if Tommy's actually, if he remembers seeing Dr. Mengele in any of these facilities.
I can't say as I have that I have. I mean, I don't have any memory. I read like quite extensively about him, and just like some of the like saltwater, like torture that he would inject people with salt water and do all kinds of horrific shit. He would sew twins together.
Yes.
And just awful stuff. And I know that they brought him over as paperclip. They couldn't bring him to the United States, but they allowed him to go to South America.
I believe they actually did bring him to the United States when they brought Hirito Ishii over to join our biowarfare program. And I think he worked with Hirito Ishii, who killed over 50,000 individuals, and his specialty was biowarfare. We are at the top of the hour, Brenda.
Yes, we are. So we're going to go ahead and take a little break, everybody. Please stay with us, and we shall be back.
Break it down. Break it down. Break it down. Break it down.
Ah,
Oh, where's Tommy? It's like putting musical
he's in the
chairs.
brain. He's
In the brain.
In the
He's
brain.
in the
Tommy's here.
brain.
He's here.
Brain.
Hey, you know what? I said Jesus is a twin, right? And I got two Thomases on here. That's pretty
That's true.
funny.
And my dad's name was
And-
Thomas.
Arrow made for the word twin.
And Thomas means twin, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
and in my television series, Bradford and Valentine, John has a twin named Thomas.
Yeah, I think that's why Megale was obsessed with twins, because it's the Jesus factor. you know.
Something.
That
Yeah.
two's always better than one, you know.
So now let's Terry back.
Two
just a little bit.
Tommies.
Let's go a wee bit back to the shooting. Now,
Okay.
you did a lot of. We're not even going to get in depth into the actual situation because I have some video on that. But you did an extensive study on this, and you had
Yeah.
told me a little bit about the study that you did, and that you were getting it made. You were getting copies made at a Kinko's. You want to tell us about the study that you did, and subsequently what happened with that study?
Well, after the shootings happened, like initially I was just going to throw like a fundraising concert, you know. That was my initial idea, and then that shifted to the Heart of Virginia campaign, which was like something that, because it seemed like that all of the official interaction from the state of Virginia seemed pretty cold to the families and just in general. Like some of the first contact that some of the families had with the state were like state troopers showing up with their child's bloody effects that had been in the classroom after they'd been killed. And so the way that was being presented across the, you know, through the media, it seemed like detached and cold. And like that's kind of like the way that the university and the state of Virginia kind of they didn't. First of all, they didn't want to take any blame or take any, you know, like accept that they're part of it, you know, of what happened. So I ended up trying to understand the mental health. Virginia ranked 48th out of 50 states in the United States in mental health at that time. And
Wow.
I had the reason I left tech was some mental health reasons, you know, like I had like overwhelming anxiety and depression to the point where I went and sought antidepressants after my head coach told me that the program didn't have time for me to be depressed. And then Zoloft triggered me to have suicidal ideation. And I was coming home at night and loading a shotgun, sticking it in my mouth, and you know, taking it off the.
That's radical.
Yeah, it was awful.
Dang.
And the only reason I didn't shoot myself was because I was afraid it would embarrass my family and the program, which that's how fucking brainwashed I was.
Was this? Yes, because as we know, you said it was a Superman program. Because I asked you, I said that my brother was a football star. He got a scholarship to Louisville. He quit the program too, by the way. And then I found out that my agent was my brother, and he was a football star, and he had 7 other brothers that were all football stars. And so I asked you, because I think I told you some of the extraordinary things that one of them did, which was not normal. First time I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then the second I was like, that's not right. And then so you said it was a precursor to the Superman program. And we also know the coaches are your surrogate fathers. Okay. And I'd like you to expound a little bit on that, and then we'll go back to this thing that we were just discussing. But if your surrogate father, who maybe takes you to get laid, takes you to get drunk, you know, whatever, tells you not to have sex on game days, he is the person that you look up to. And now, if that person discounts you, which happens, and also you're screamed at all the time on in any sports, but particularly in the field, were those some of the components that caused your depression?
Yeah, I think so. This guy started grooming me when I was 10. Like I went to a football camp there, starting in 1984. And pretty much every summer I went to camp there until I graduated high school. And this was like, he was the only coach that stayed over from that coaching administration when Bill Dooley like ended up leaving because and left tech and NCAA like sanctions and stuff. They almost got the death penalty. They almost killed the program. And like so it was reduced scholarships and a whole bunch of penalties from what had happened under Dooley, who he was the head football coach, but he was also the AD, and he had allotted all female scholarships to football players.
What year was that?
That was like the mid '80s. I was 84 when I went to the camp, and when I went to the camp, they put me in a room with the running back coach as my roommate.
Oh wow!
And that's when the relationship began with him, a friendship, like mentorship, whatever.
Yes.
Grooming, and he used a lot of the same methodologies that child molesters use to gain your trust, and touch you on the shoulder every time he talk to you, always show interest and kind of that uncle father figure that I needed in my life, beyond my own dad, which we kind of butted heads. So and then he was the only coach that stayed over from that coaching administration when Frank Beamer came in as the head coach at Tech, and Beamer was one of my dad's teammates at Tech.
Oh wow! So
he was from Hillsville, which was a local area. It was like hometown boy done good, and they brought him in under all these sanctions and stuff, and so it was like the first 7 years of his career there, coaching career. I mean, they had like maybe 2 winning seasons, and it was like 6-5. It wasn't ever anything that would have garnered the berth to like a bowl game. And actually, the year my first year at Tech, I redshirted, and Tech went 2-8-1. They won 2 games, but we had the number 2 ranked defense in the country, and so anyway, so every year at football camp, like the relationship between he and I, he would use me as an example, and anytime there were drills or something, he would always pull me out to be the example person to run the drill. And when I was maybe a sophomore, one of the things they do is you run the 40 and they time you running the 40 and just doing these different agilities. It's a way to recruit kids to pick out kids that they want to go after to offer scholarships as they finish high school. And one year I got up there and my track shoes were slick, and so I kept slipping every time I try to start running. So I took my shoes off and took my socks off, and I ran barefoot. And all the guys were making fun of me. They called me hayseed, and I ran like a 4.4 40, and all of a sudden everybody else, they're taking the shoes off, running barefoot. And then as I got faster and became a better athlete, it was always a point of pride, and he would always tell stories about me too. Like when I was in 8th grade, when I was at camp there, they had put me in the room with another coach. It was a high school coach, head coach that from Roanoke, from Northside, a guy named Jim Hickam, who was the brother of Homer Hickam, who was the movie The Rocketeer was made about.
Oh wow!
Yeah, no, October Sky. It was October Sky, not The Rocketeer. But he was a rocket scientist that worked with Warner von Braun, another Nazi.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so Jim, he had played fullback at Tech a few years ahead of my dad, and so he was a Tech, graduate, but he wasn't even from my high school. It was weird. They put me in a room with this guy, and like as soon as he'd get back from the practices, he'd strip down to the jock strap, and it made me so uncomfortable that I took all my shit and my mattress and pulled it down into knocked on one of the other kids in the dorm room and said, "You guys mind if I sleep on your floor? They got me in the room with Hickam over here. I'm afraid he's gonna rape me." And
holy shit,
it was weird. I mean,
now
he was like
it was Hickham's family that worked with Warner von Braun.
His brother, yeah, Homer Hickam. Yeah, he was. That's what October Sky, the movie, was about him. They're from West Virginia, and just this, kind of a poor town, and he was making his own rockets in high school.
Okay, so you do know that that von Braun was a war criminal. Sure. And worked with Joseph Mengele, and he came. When we brought all the paperclip people over, then we infiltrated them into our society, our military, our governance, and we made Warner von Braun, who was working with Joseph Mengele and taking slave labor from Auschwitz into the tunnels that they had there to make their rocketry and do all their stuff. And we made him a hero in the United States of America.
was one of the heads of NASA.
Yes, he was, and he also ran. He was working out of Cape Canaveral, which then became Cape Kennedy, which is in Florida, which is where I'm from.
Oh yeah.
I said that we had more Nazis and CIA in Miami than we had in Langley, which is where you're from,
Not too far. A couple hours.
Virginia. I pretty much just blanketly refer to to Virginia as Langley, because it's like CIA country.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
One of my dad's teammates was he was an architect, and he got hired by the CIA to do a threat assessment in Beirut on the embassy there. And he came back and he determined that the biggest threat was a vehicle bomb, like a truck bomb. And this was like maybe a month or two before the embassy was bombed with a truck bomb. And after that happened, the CIA came to him and said, "Don't ever tell anybody that you did this work for us, or we'll kill you." And then, like a month and a half later, his daughter was murdered.
Your story is very, very complex, but this thing right here that you just talked about, Homer Hickman, that's way too close to Joseph Mengele right there.
Yeah. It's that's just one of the things that that they kept putting me in a situation rather than putting me in a dorm room with. I don't know if they were trying to like put me with an adult so I'd have more oversight, but it was weird. I was in the dorm room with Coach Height twice. And that was the guy that recruited me all the way through, and he was my coach when I played football there. And then they gaslight the shit out of you when you're playing. They pit you against each other with your teammates to extract maximum performance.
Yes.
And they psychologically abuse you. I mean, they tell you one thing, they tell somebody else. They were telling my dad one thing, they were telling me something different. And my folks were probably a little closer to the program than most. Having
Yes, and so your dad had kind of a handle on the psychological operations that they would run in. It's rather a military fashion. Football is.
Yeah, I mean, what it is, it's a way to normalize violence for the military and complex, and it's a way to rally the troops. Like you get school spirit. When during wartime, that nationalism, that patriotism, that's just school spirit, all bound in all those schools and all those people from around the country, just wrapped in red, white, and blue. It's the same concept.
Yes, and my brother's instance, when Greg Stead tackled him and became a paraplegic, then Greg Stead was visited by Nixon, and the paparazzi surrounded my brother and said, "How does it feel to make a child a paraplegic?" When Greg actually tackled my brother. So he went through a great deal of mental anguish also through the program. He was also an all-around. So tell us a little bit about, we were getting an understanding of how this could lead to detrimental depression. At one point, when you were on the team, were you allowed to take anything for depression, or did you see a therapist?
I didn't at the time. Like, I didn't know what depression was. Like I didn't know what anxiety was. There wasn't it wasn't something that was discussed. Like
Yes.
I mean, my grandmother was a psychology professor, but anytime there's any suggestion of any type of like therapy or anything. I mean, I ended up seeing a therapist while I was at Tech, but it was independent of
Did your
team.
grandmother know that you were going through these depressive? Did anyone know that you were going through these depressive bouts?
Yeah, I mean, I stopped going to class at one point and just stopped going to practice. I mean, I stepped off the merry-go-round. It was just I sat in my room and watched Apocalypse Now over and over again on a loop for like a week.
Shit.
And hey, I tell you what, that's an uplifting movie. Was that a Disney film?
Yes, it was. Actually, Chet was modeled after the person that was murdered on Suzanne's ranch. There were some interminglings with his actual mission, which was to kill Michael Aquino. Now, so you started studying mental health because of your own mental breakdown, and you had a psychologist in the family, which is odd.
Psychology professor. Like, she was the reason that she helped establish the community college system. She was a elementary school teacher and high school teacher before she helped establish the community college system in Virginia.
So what
And she-
happened when did the students that experienced the shooting go to her?
No, she was retired at that point. Actually, my grandmother was dead at that point. She died in '97.
Okay.
But there was a huge outpouring of from the mental health community for like triage, and actually one of the guys that sponsored one of the events that we did, a guy named Joe Klein, he through the nonprofit organization and through Music for Mental Health Awareness, which was kind of our national outreach that I created, following all this as a way to try to like prevent school shooting through education, and through prevention, and stigma reduction of mental illness. So we understand things and recognize that something affects everybody. Everybody has a loved one that's affected by mental illness.
Yes.
And to try to normalize it.
So what you were going to do is you were going to provide some musical venues, maybe fundraising through this.
Fundraising and just that was an outreach and awareness thing. So like Dr. Klein, like we did a thing called the Golden Ticket event in Floyd, Virginia, and that's when I had the conversation with him. He actually, during that triage period of time, there were a couple young men that came to him that had gone to school they'd gone to like middle school and high school with Cho, and they had been part of a group that had bullied the guy like relentlessly, and like Sungway Cho was a selective mute and may have had like Asperger's.
Yes.
So there was he was already. I mean, he went by the alias question mark. He would introduce
Oh
himself.
my
as
God.
And like there was the poet laureate. There was one of his professors at Tech. I'm drawing a blank. She was I'll remember in a second. Anyway, so she was his professor, and she told the head of the English department either they take him out of her class or she was resigning. Nikki Giovanni.
Okay.
Yeah, and she was.
Yeah, selective mutism, SM. It's an anxiety disorder in which a person who is otherwise capable of speech becomes unable to speak when exposed to specific situations, specific places, or to specific people, one or multiple of which serving as triggers. This is caused by the freeze response. And by the way, the freeze response, when you're yelled and screamed at in your face, you freeze. You cannot think. Selective mutism usually coexists with social anxiety disorder. People with selective mutism stay silent even when the consequences of their silence include shame, social ostracism, or punishment. He had previously been diagnosed with selective mutism and severe depression. During much of his middle school and high school years, he received therapy and special education support. After graduating from high school, he enrolled at Virginia Tech. Because of federal privacy laws, the university was unaware of Cho's previous diagnoses, which I find that very hard to believe, or the accommodations he had been granted at school. In 2005, he was accused of stalking 2 female students. After an investigation, a Virginia special justice declared Cho mentally ill and ordered him to attend treatment. Because he was not institutionalized, he was allowed to purchase guns. The shooting prompted the state of Virginia to close legal loopholes that allowed individuals adjudicated as mentally unsound to purchase handguns without detection by the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, that's NICS. It also led to the passage of the first major federal gun control measure in the U.S. since 1994. The law strengthening the NICS was signed by President George W. on January 5th, 2008.
Yeah, Bush ordered all the heads of like education and the Surgeon General and the DOD and DOJ, all to research what happened there and come up with some possible solutions. And I ended up taking the results of all that research and study and putting it into action in the form of different programs that we initiated in different
Did you
formats.
create these programs through your research? Okay.
And worked with community service boards, a couple different community service boards in Virginia, and a multitude of different like clients, different venues, like day supports for folks with profound like mental retardation and mental illness. The community community like apartments where folks with mental illness lived. They had some supports and stuff, but lived independently in the community there. Some group homes that developed some programs in, and the anecdotal evidence that derived from that was pretty profound. Like there was a complete reduction in behaviors, like behavioral outbursts, over the course of the 6 months that I was working and developing these programs in this one group home. And
That's crazy. Did you develop these alone? Did you have a team of people that were helping you?
It was just me.
Oh my God, Tommy.
Hey, Tommy, you know what? I was thinking when you said that Mr. Mesquite, was investigated. That's what I'm calling him, okay? I would say that it was probably for the opposite reason. It was probably for a cover-up. Yeah. Not to find the answers, but, whenever they get involved, it's usually to clean up everything and cover it over, and you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened, Tommy, when you worked on, initiated these programs? What happened when you tried to actually present this information?
Well, I wrote like a 20+ page report from all the different research that I'd collected over the previous 3 years. It was coming up on the 3rd anniversary of the shootings, and so I'd worked diligently for maybe about 3 weeks writing this paper as it led up to this anniversary, and got it done the day before. And the only people that knew that I was writing this were the board members from my nonprofit. And I took it to Kinko's in Asheville, North Carolina, where I was living at the time. I'd moved down there to be the front a rock band with the drummer from Leonard Skinner. Shared a house with him for like a year and a half, and I was still pursuing it and running the nonprofit and trying to build the national outreach of what we're doing, and was still working on programming at different facilities in North Carolina and Virginia, and traveling a bunch back and forth to do so. And I got a call saying that I had 40 copies printed, collated, and bound, and to send out to different news desks and editors across the country from contacts that Roger Odell, whose son Derek had been shot at Tech. Roger connected with me in Roanoke and said that I was the only person that was doing anything to actually address what happened there, and that he wanted to join forces with me.
Right,
and
I would say that's about right.
His wife was a shrink at the in the VA system.
Oh wow!
And so he had collected all these contacts from different producers and reporters from all over the country that were trying to get in touch with Derek, because Derek was the first one released from the hospital. And so he'd collect all this information, and I was just going to put it to use. He'd give it to me for this purpose, And so get the call, say that the things are ready. I'm finishing something up. We scoot over to Kinko's and get there, and the clerk is like sweating and like nervous as shit, and he says that I don't have an order there. He doesn't know what I'm talking about. I showed him the text message that he'd sent me, and I'm like, I talked to you for like 2 hours when I dropped the stuff off the other day.
Dang.
And about what we're doing, and talked about music and stuff, because he was a Southern rock fan, and And finally, I'm like, whatever, man. Okay, like this is weird. So we got in the car and drove around to the back of the strip mall to where the dumpster was for Kinko's, and I opened it and reached out over in there and pulled out a bunch of shredded copies of my report.
Oh my God.
And so somebody had contacted him and scared him to the point where, you know, it was weird, and that really freaked me out. At that point, I stopped focusing on Virginia Tech, and I stopped making that a point of a focus for the nonprofit. I started just working on the music for mental health portion of it. Shortly after that, I moved to Nashville, and to try to continue to grow it in Music City there. But it was bizarre. Later, I found out that one of our board members, somebody that I had became engaged to, that purchased the property in Nashville to move to Nashville with, she had been my handler, and she'd been assigned to me to run Disruption, and the building that I lived in Nashville was actually out in Belmead, and it was 6666 Brookmont Terrace.
Oh my God.
Okay, so I was on.
I think I'd be running away.
We talked the other night about the Imagination podcast with Emma.
Yes.
Well, Emma's boyfriend Gray, which we discussed as well, his handler and programmer lived in my building. I interacted with him on a regular basis.
Oh.
And I always felt like there's something off about the guy, because he always seemed to know too much about what's going on in my life. And I was being stalked the whole time. Like, at somebody like and it turned out to be my ex with software on my phone, and then a burner phone with a bunch of different SIM cards. Like, with
Wait a minute.
Yeah, that software was
Tom,
called Pegasus too.
Tom,
Yeah.
didn't you have some problems with those people too, or something?
What, the gray guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he. I didn't know who he was. He said he knew me and had been a fan or something, and I didn't know who he was. I didn't remember anybody like that. And he, on my son's birthday, Sean, on the birthday, October 14, he appears on my site, basically harassing one of the people that followed me on my site. So he used my site as a harassment platform. And I simply said, you know, I will not have anyone harassed on my site. And this opened up a whole thing where he started accusing me of, I don't know, everything. It just started trashing, and it was just bizarre. So then I looked into the guy. He wouldn't stop. It went on for like 30 days on my site. And so he said he wanted to talk to me or something. So he sends his phone number, and I was like, okay, I'll give him a call, you know. And I recorded that call. When I called this gray guy, he sounds like a normal guy on the phone from Tennessee. It had his number spelled out, the city he's at, and everything. So I didn't understand why the secrecy. If his phone call has his phone number and city where he's at and everything else like. CIA is not stupid. They can find him if they were after him. They can have him in a heartbeat. Why wear the mask and the makeup? But the thing is that he just started cursing me out and yelling at me. And so I taped the whole call and basically couldn't get a word in. I thought, this guy must be nuts. And then I see this post that says that he's the right hand of God, and he's going to use his 5 fingers to beat the trash out of this woman. And I was like, what? Yeah. So I just was like, unbelievable. But what had happened was I had appeared on Emma's podcast and was pretty much a regular almost. And when I was on the last show I did with her, she was complimenting me on my masculinity, and I was complimenting her on femininity. We were talking about doing a show about real masculine, real feminine. It drove this guy nuts. So he started appearing in the chat, complaining and whining to people that I was getting attention from Emma. I'm like, these guys must be romantically inclined or something. This is really odd to do to a guest. And then lo and behold, that's exactly what's going on. So Emma was talking about doing a show with me. It drove him crazy. It was like a jealous boyfriend thing or something, where then all of my podcasts with her, the 5 of them that was to help the children, got erased. So she erased from him all my shows, that's for the kids. That's not for me. And so I feel bad about the kids, but it was a nightmare, absolute nightmare, you know, and I just couldn't get it stopped, you know, but Yeah. So, but then what I did that really pissed Emma off was she had a show with Gray, and I took a snippet of it because I thought it was really poignant. I thought it was something that could help keep her safe, you know, because on it, this Gray guy is saying, and this is how he sounded to it. It's chilling. He has this gray mask on, which looks like a terrorist, and he's talking like this. I am a schizophrenic. I hear voices. And so, again, I have schizophrenic tendencies. I took that clip and I gave it to Emma to show because this guy wouldn't stop. I kept saying, stop doing this on my site. He wouldn't stop. And she didn't remember it, but that's what pissed her off was that I put that finally to protect it on my own site. So when someone says they're apparently schizophrenic and talks about being an assassin and things like that and wears a weird Hollywood mask, I would say that's not a healthy individual. So
I would agree.
leave it at that.
I would absolutely agree. And, you know, pay heed when someone tells you who they are, because my second husband said he went by the nom de plume Psycho Sam. Because why? Because he was psycho.
Well, that's the thing, Penny. What I picked up was he's a very possessive individual and very vindictive individual, and he'll twist things around. He said that in that call I recorded that I screamed at him and I used foul language. Well, we can play the tape, and it's all him screaming. And so the funny thing was he talked Emma into having a podcast because I was saying he was like this other guy, you know, this other guy, Stephen, who helped me got the mannerisms every match and the eyes that were weird. And so what's fascinating is they had this other guy appear as if it's Gray, and he has a sock thing on. It's not even the mask, because here's what was going on. Gray didn't want his mask shared with this imposter to pretend to be him, where it's supposed to look like there's two different guys. Nice try. And the guy didn't even look like him under the sock mask and didn't even sound like him. I know what Gray sounds like because he called me on my phone. I have it from like Goodwill, Tennessee or something. I have it.
Goodlettsville.
Yeah, so why are you calling me on
Goodnessville?
the phone?
Goodlettsville.
Yeah, it's right. It read right out. It read right out on there. And I think I said to you, Penny, I said there must be something going on between Gray and Emma romantically or something, because he acts like a jealous boyfriend, a very possessive boyfriend. I'm just doing my job to help the kids with Emma. But he lost it on the show because he thought his girlfriend was paying too much attention to me. That's what was going on, like a guy whining in the chat. So, yeah. I don't believe he was some special CIA guy. I think he's a wannabe, because I don't think the CIA would hire a whiner who's totally saying he's paranoid schizophrenic. I think that would be I think the agency looks so good. So I think it's BS that he worked for the CIA.
I don't think that he worked for the CIA.
No.
I think that he was
he's not an assassin.
I think that he was a monarch programmed like individual, and like
Yes.
and his
If he
story.
was, he was probably a dropout, because I'm telling you, the guy didn't come across as special. What I got, like I'm intuitive, what I got from him was that he wants attention. He's a wannabe that wants to be famous. That's why he's wearing the frickin' mask, you know. But no one really cares.
He did this. He's got a YouTube channel called The Gray Area.
Yeah,
and
he's got like 3 views. I know.
Well, the information that he lays out is pretty profound, and it connects like the Iran Contra with a bunch of the different stuff that happened in the United States after that, with human trafficking and drug trafficking. And
you know what, Tommy? Here's the deal. He researches on Wikipedia, and that's what Stephen found. Steve, a guy that helps me do the book and everything, he researched them. All he's doing is cut and pasting things from Wikipedia and other places. He's brainless. He's not connected to anything. He's cut.
That's kind of like Alex Jones.
He's cut and pasting other information. He is not anything. He's a nobody.
Okay.
So,
but
yeah.
On this note, Brenda's going to say,
that was one of my neighbors in the building that I did.
I hear you. I hear you. They may have been focused on you, but as far as this guy, he should join Barnum and Bailey Circus.
Basically, they don't have anything original from their own experiences. They're just pasting everything from everybody else's sources.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it, to make themselves look better. I'm sorry, Tommy. I don't mean to disagree with you, but
No, you're fine.
I would not even had opinion on this guy if he wouldn't have showed up mocking on the death of my son's birthday. That's where he gets me broiled up. So I have nothing good to say about him for getting. And you know what he said when I said that you're attacking my son's birthday, that you're on my site trashing people, and I asked you not to, and he kept it for 30 days. You know what he said to me? I've gone through a lot of stuff. I've gone through a lot of shit. That doesn't answer you mocking and trashing me on my son's birthday who was murdered. So I have nothing good. If you want to keep me talking about him, I have nothing good to say about this jerk.
You know, all I can say is a lot of times these people are possessed by demons, and those demons know exactly when to do what they do and
Minions.
say what they say to certain people on certain days, especially they manifest.
That's right.
Yes.
That's why, Tommy, if you say to me, you know, that, oh, he has connected dots. No, he's a nobody who draws information, like Brenda said, from other people and Wikipedia articles and stuff. So it's his site was, like Stephen went through it, it was just all cut and paste. He's just cut and pasting from other sources. He's a nobody.
I just
Now-
Okay,
Tommy, I know.
Tommy, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just found it that like validated and connected the dots between the reason why I was basically warehoused there in this high rise out in Belmead in Nashville and isolated, and I was relentlessly like stalked, and it was
I believe you.
most of the stalking was with my fiance using a burner phone
Right.
and
Wow.
software on my phone. I mean, and
Right.
it fucked me up. Like I'm still
Tommy, I
not.
understand. You know what they do too?
It's like this person has targeted both of you
Yeah.
guys.
Well,
Weird.
that's it. Tommy, what I was going to say, what they do to you, Tommy, is they send morons your way to frustrate you, and they'll put morons in your life to act like they're going to help you, and they're actually not so people. This guy's admitting he's paranoid schizophrenic. So what you're doing is they're sending people for you to have to ally with or talk to that only pull you down further, right? So
Yeah,
that's why it's good you're on this show right now, because we're not the kind of people that will pull you down. But they do it by association, you know? They sent nobodies my way too, to make it look like I'm a nobody. But you have to disassociate yourself with the people that are actually nuts
good.
that are in the, you know,
Yeah,
associated
Tommy
with
and
you.
I talked about
By
that
comparison.
too, and Tommy, I remember Tommy, we had a conversation about the gang stalking.
Mhm.
You gonna tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I started really kind of experiencing overt gang stalking about 2019 when I was living back in Nashville, and this was at the request of a former friend of mine that I had been in a band with back in the late 90s, and had been friends with and had worked a little bit with when I was living in Nashville from 2011 to 2015, and he begged me to move out there because he was afraid I was going to get murdered in my hometown by the police, which I was kind of afraid of that too. After they sent a SWAT team after me and told them I was armed and homicidal, most likely headed for school like 2 weeks after the Parkland shootings
Jesus.
up in New Jersey. And this was Bergen County where Newark is, you know. Imagine the Newark SWAT team coming after you.
Not really.
I've got a
I
picture.
live in New Jersey.
I got a picture of them coming. They had Humvees with 50 cals mounted on top of it, all black, paramilitary. I mean, I would shit myself if I had been there. You know,
Newark's like a murder capital of the world, basically. And it's like, I was taken there by CIA operatives too. They would tell me to pick them up at the train station. And I was supposed to meet this other CIA guy that was trained interrogators. It was insane. But they had me going to Newark. Newark is like, yeah, if they want to get rid of you.
They told you to pick them up at the train.
At the train station, what they did was they kept
That's
moving
like
around.
Yellowstone.
So I
You know,
spent
you don't
2
want to go to the
hours-
train station.
Yeah, 2 hours I tried to go around to go where they were to pick them up, and they kept having me go around while other people were approaching the car, and they disappear and they move around. Then they started saying that I was being harassing. They could pay $3 to get the train ticket to go to actually where we're supposed to meet, but they wouldn't do it. So they would go, meet you down here. And if you know Newark, Tommy, right? You got to go. If you go to the lower section of the train area, you have to.
Yeah.
You can't stop. You can't stop. And so you have to go by, and they're like, "We're up here." Then they said, "We're down here." Then we're up here. So for 2 hours, I did this dance where I'm running out of gas in Newark, New Jersey, and these guys then start chewing me
Oh,
out.
that's how you get killed, Tom.
That was how they. That was one of the setups that this.
In Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah.
at a train station.
Newark's like a shit
One
version
lady's
of
name is
Detroit.
Susan Clark, and her sister works for Disney as a studios out in Malibu, California. Works with Disney, and so what she was doing was she worked as a person who researched for the CIA in DC. That Susan Clark did with sonic weaponry, and so there she is handling me with her boyfriend Len for like a couple years, right before Sean was murdered, my son. So they did these games with me where they would have me go around and around.
Was that before or after the Matrix movie or a script that you wrote?
It's afterwards.
Okay.
And what's funny is I don't have tapes of it, but Susan Clark would call me with her boyfriend, and they'd say that that I was Jesus. For some reason, I don't know if you've gone through this, Tommy, but in some reason, they play this game with you, the CIA handlers, a lot of the handlers, where they keep saying this. And I don't want for a response from me because I believe in Christ, but I'm not going to say I'm Jesus. No way. But they'll say this to me all the time. They'll go, "You're Jesus. You're actually Jesus." I guess they're trying to record you in some kind of response at some point where you'll say something to try to be polite or something.
Right.
Like,
And then they say you're crazy because you think that you're Jesus.
yeah. And just for the record, I'm not. So yeah.
when I was in Nashville, I had this woman from Africa, from Ghana, contact me about coming to produce a record at her music school with her students and stuff. And I had like a member of the Grammy Foundation was seeking funding for me, and then I pulled together this kind of team of folks. I was going to take her with me. We're going to shoot a documentary around it, and then the lady pronounced that I was Christ. And I'm like, fuck that! I'm not going to Africa and get crucified. You know?
What the?
Was some songs that you wrote, Tommy? Were those songs that you wrote, and then she was trying to say that, or
no? It was
like a tactic.
It was like a musical that she owned. She had a bunch of kids. And it was like a combination of like traditional African instruments with like horns and like marching band, but also like guitar and stuff. And I had a friend who's a virtuoso banjo player from when he was a child. Like he was a child virtuoso. He's in Bluegrass Hall of Fame. Was kind of one of my mentors and produced some of my first album and stuff. And I was going to take him with me to take the banjo back to Africa because it was kind of the first American instrument, but it was based on these African banjars and different forms of like gourds with skin pulled up, stretched over the top with a neck. It's kind of a lute instrument, but percussive. And after that was weird. Like I that was too much for me to deal with. And then she had 2 accounts, and I was getting. I think one of them was her son, like acting as her, and it just got real weird.
There's some weird witchcraft in Africa. Let me tell you.
Yes.
And
so what happened to the female handler that they sent you? Because they've been sending you handlers forever, just like me, just like Tom, just like Susie.
We were engaged. I almost got married, but because of the stalking.
I did get married to my handlers.
My wife, the only time I've been married was a handler, and she was actually from South Africa originally, but she was that was how they allowed her to stay in the United States. And she disrupted me from going to Nashville after the first little record. I had gotten some interest from what's his name from the Stuart Copeland from the Police, the drummer from the Police.
Yes.
And Larry Butler, who produced all of like Kenny Rogers stuff, all the hits, the 70s and stuff, but also Johnny Cash and Loretta Lynn and a whole bunch of other folks, and so got me to move to California instead of following that, and it happened. That was one thing. So the handler that I was with that disrupted my life and was fake stalking me, and she was fake stalking herself too. Like she went with me to make police reports in 3 states and 5 jurisdictions. I mean, I stopped performing live, and like it totally like it stopped my music career. And like the only time I would leave the house, every time I leave the house, I carried a .38 with me and was ready to just shoot somebody in the chest. And if I had seen the same person over and over again in multiple different places, especially in different states and they were going down. I mean, it was on, and it completely stifled my momentum for my nonprofit, momentum for what I was doing. And by the time we finally split up, and I was in a car accident by the time I moved out of the house, and the airbag gave me a bad concussion. And I think that was all like, I think that was staged.
I think so too.
And it was weird.
I have a question for you, Tommy. I have a question for you. Do you go through this where, and I'm sure that ladies know all about this kind of thing, where they do all these things to you, They take away your career. They destroy your life. They brag about destroying your life. And then, like in my case, after my sons are murdered, they use this talking point. Have you heard this? Where they go, "You're angry. You're an angry."
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then they had me hospitalized on some bullshit. Like they broke a whole bunch of violated my civil rights, and broke a bunch of federal and state laws, and had me hospitalized. And when I called it out as a criminal conspiracy, that's when they sent the SWAT team after me.
I've had the SWAT teams too. Yeah, you're right. We have a lot to talk about. But it's like, do they use that phrase, angry? You're an angry, it's like, yeah, it's like, I should be. It's like, that's what I thought, But what's your response to it when they say, oh, you're an angry person?
I'm like this. I have a right to be angry with the shit I've been put through, but, I'm not vengeful. And if I was, you'd know it. I wouldn't be sitting there talking to you. It would be something way worse.
Good response. That's a very good response. Like,
That's an awesome response. Yeah.
Tommy, was Frank Beamer one of your coaches?
Oh yeah, he was my coach when I was a tech. He was the one that told me that the program didn't have time for me to be depressed.
So he was one of the individuals who actually was partially responsible for some of your depression.
Oh yeah, man. Like this is 14 months after I led the nation in scoring and put the program on the map, and brought it into the national spotlight. I mean, it's the second game of my freshman year at Tech. I was leading the nation in scoring, and I was on, every sports show and newspaper.
Have you ever had an offer where they offered you something if you switch sides? Like, did they ever come to you and say, "Listen, we'll give you this and this if you work with us, if you get on board and behave yourself"? They like to use that word, behave yourself.
I have had several handlers in the last 4 years who have tried to. They want me to straighten up my act, and then they're going to bring me in.
Right. Yeah. Did they tell you how, like what position you would have or what you'd be doing?
Well, they want me as a remote viewer. As part of it, and actually my old guitarist from my band, from Tommy Edwards band from like 2009, suddenly moved back to the area, into the building that is connected to the building I've been working on up in Pulaski. Now he ran in Pulaski is like a small town. There's not much going on there. He works in Roanoke, so more than an hour drive each way for work, and he's from Roanoke. And he's like, oh, Pulaski, it's gonna blow up. It's gonna be a great place, and it's a nice, like, we're renovating like a bunch of old buildings downtown, rehabbing them, like 8 of the old downtown buildings, and like I've got a bunch of arts set up like a gallery in one of them right now, and that's the building that's connected to where he's living, and he just shows up and then talks about how how they want me as a remote viewer, and he's a company man now.
Right, the company man. How far is the Monroe Institute from you?
Oh, what's it in Charlottesville? Where is it? Charlottesville.
I'm not sure. I'm looking it up because for some reason I thought it was in Virginia.
It is. I think it's in Charlottesville, which is like 2.5, 3 hours.
Okay. Have you ever been there? Did you go through any of their programs?
I was not to my knowledge.
Okay, I hear that one.
I went to.
Hey Tommy, can you play us a little tune?
Can I play us a little tune? Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, we got like 6 more minutes.
We want to hear. We want to hear your talent.
That's a little tune.
A little. Oh, you're just so funny, Tommy.
Oh, how about a little bit bigger?
Oh, that one's a little bigger.
A little bit bigger tune. Yeah.
Play us a medium moderate tune. There you go.
Medium moderate tune.
I was talking about the size of your.
Okay. Let's see.
Wow.
Take this mystery, open up the window and set me free. Well, it's just another day. Sun is shining, so I must be on my way. But I'll be back someday. For too long will I be here to stay. Keep on holding on. Though it seems forever, but baby, please be strong and keep holding on. Wait, I see the horizon, standing in the doorway while I'm busy analyzing. This is not a song for me, well, it's a song for you. It's not a song for misery. I'll be back someday. For too long, will I be here to stay? So you keep on holding on. Well, I know it seems forever. Baby, please be strong. Holding on. Holding on and on. Keep that lamplight shining. Keep that home light strong. Take this mystery. Open up your heart and just set me free. This is just a masquerade. Any fool could see the plot through this thin charade. But I'll be back someday. For too long, I'll be here to stay. Keep on holding on. Well, I know it seems forever, but baby, please be strong and keep holding on. Holding on and on. Keep that lamplight shining. Keep that home light strong. And take this mystery. Open up the window and just set me free. This is another day. The sun is shining, so I must be on my way. But I'll be back someday. I'll be back someday. I'll be back someday.
That was awesome, Tommy.
Very
And
nice
you
to
are going to
know.
be back someday. You're going to be back on our show next Saturday as well. Tommy, can people? Do you have a PayPal or something that people can contribute to help
I have
you?
Was it Cash App? I
Yeah.
have a
What's,
PayPal, but I can't remember what it is.
what's,
off the top of my
what's your
head.
Cash App?
Cash App is cash tag, which is just the money symbol, dollar symbol, and then Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong, and the D and the G are capital. So
Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong.
Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong.
Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong.
I love it. I love it.
I always kind of enjoyed the Hunter S. Thompson kind of style, his approach to writing. I know he's kind of a questionable figure.
Oh yeah, very questionable. He was one of the first people to talk about drinking adrenochrome. Well, we're almost out of time. Tom,
are.
where can people find you?
People can find me at on Facebook at Touchdown Tommy Edwards, and on Instagram Touchdown Tommy Edwards, and YouTube at Tommy Edwards, I think 6270, something like that. If you look up like Touchdown Tommy, the Rock and Roll Cowboy, that should pull it up. Or Peace and Pain is another one. Tommy Edwards, Peace and Pain. That'll take you to the those are different songs and albums that I have up on.
Yeah,
YouTube.
that album is smashing.
Thank you.
Thomas Althouse.
Yeah.
How can people help you? Do you have a GoFundMe or a Cash App or
I've got
PayPal?
that. It's at Reclaim Matrix. That's a PayPal, which helps with the documentary and the book and the travel expenses for people that are helping me do this. So that's one thing. And then still on Facebook. But Twitter I can't get into, like I said. But we do have a website forming up that's pretty cool too. So that's nice. It's actually getting made. An IDMB or whatever's being made. We're actually starting to hit it hard now. Get this out here because I was told about how I was being portrayed to the public. I'm like, what? Like a Dennis Quaid, poor guy. So I was like, okay, that's not really me. So now they're reinventing, just putting out the real images that should be up there instead of the ones they've been stalking on me. So, yeah.
And
Yeah.
and Penny, what about you?
Yes, you can find me at The Awake Nation Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central. and 9 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern. And then you can also find us on the Dark Outpost, which is at darkoutpost.tv. It's our subscription-based show. And so please join it because we're doing Dark Outpost every day now. We're doing one show every day, Monday through Friday. And Tom Althouse is on there with the Dream Team. He's also on the Awake Nation every other Friday, and then on the Beyond the Box, which is every Friday and Saturday. And this is an evening show, so this is 9 to 11, and that's Central. That would be 10 to 12 Eastern, and what is it? 7 to 9. I think that's Pacific. I'm getting all my time zones right now.
Right. And Susie Q.
Well, here Friday and Saturday night, on the Awake Nation every other Friday, sometimes the Dark Outpost, and on Facebook under Suzanne Hotte. Hot. And I'm riding my horse.
And I also want to remind people, if you want to contribute to Susie, you can contribute to Bow Arrow Horses at yahoo.com. She has rescue horses and dogs, or you can help me pay for some dog food too at shepherdentertainment at gmail.com. I think of everything in bags of dog
food, horse food,
right?
Cow food.
Hey, Alfalfa. You know what? And y'all can find me out on my ship coming for all the gold in the world.
Black Pearl.
All right, everybody. We are
Aye,
out of time.
pirate.
Right? I want to thank everybody out there who is watching. I want to thank everybody that's here tonight. Tommy, Tom, Penny, Susie. She was on time today. Great. I loved it. So we will see you all next weekend. And
Love y'all.
you know, like always, please be kind to one another. And y'all stick around for the back. I got some stuff to say. Woo.
Oh.
And we shall see y'all later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye for now from Beyond the Box. Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box. Please join us again for Beyond the Box, Friday and Saturday evenings from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern. Join us for more intel bombs with our extraordinary guests.
Break it down.
Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box.
Break it down.
Good night, Putin. Good night, Tucker Carlson.